Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to some more Starbound. My name is Sabouts, joined again by Marcus Aurelius.
Howdy.
And we're here to, once again, deforest another planet, which we're good at doing.
I mean, I don't know about your viewers, Sabouts, but my viewers at this point are pretty much acclimated to the fact that this Starbound series is not really a Starbound series, but rather more of a podcast of Marcus talking to other YouTubers about random things. But if you, for whatever reason, missed the first two episodes, we spoke a little bit about the state of strategy gaming. We spoke a little bit about achievements. We made kind of an aside into digital privacy in the last episode. And one thing I wanted to start this episode off with, Sabouts, is what aspects of a strategy game do you think are just the necessary, and what aspects do you think are, oh, you pissed off the frog? What aspects do you think are not necessary? And let me give you an example. I do not believe, just because it's been done, and it's been done well, that every strategy game needs to have an espionage system. I'm happy to play a 4X that does not have an espionage system. That is fine with me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's other ways you could do exploit. I don't think it always has to be espionage, I mean... there's very few games I find that do espionage well. I find a lot of games don't do espionage very well. Let me think of a great example. A game that doesn't do espionage very well. I'd say I don't want to go right out and say I'm going to say a game that's borderline just poor espionage. I guess Master of Orion Conquer the Stars espionage really sucked. Stellaris obviously has no espionage.
But that's a good example though, because I've heard people say, I can't wait till Stellaris has espionage, and I'm like, why does Stellaris need espionage?
It really doesn't.
They added espionage to Endless Legend, and I've not played it too much, so I'm not going to say if it's good or bad. That's not the point of it, but I will say that it wasn't, in my opinion, necessary. I thought the game was great without it.
Yeah, so I mean, you take a look at
I created this little bridge.
Yeah, I got to get up there. Let me see if I can find some. I've got tons of dirt on me, it looks like, or not tons, but I've got a little bit. Yeah, so Stellaris, it really doesn't need espionage. I mean, why, like you said, why does it? Take a look at EU4. So they added an espionage system, and I'm gonna admit I haven't played the more up to date version of EU4 with the new espionage, but I've dabbled a little bit in it. It just doesn't really do it.
Get this, chocolate is amazing in the game because it can be built relatively easily. All you need is the chocolate seed, and it's filling, and it lasts forever.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So I think I stole this one from you, but I'll kick it out at you. Where are you? Oh, I have 62 of them. Never mind. I'm not going to give you all 62 of them. But yeah, go use your matter manipulator on it, and probably you want to keep the seed too, so you can plant it one of these days.
Oh yeah, it's a good idea.
But okay, so yeah, so there you go. It was added, and was it necessary? I mean, does it really add to the game? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. And for me, it's especially hard to say because I haven't played EU4 since it added espionage, so I cannot honestly answer the question.
Yeah,
but it's because I think also gamers are becoming more demanding. They're like, this 4X sucks. It doesn't have diplomacy or it doesn't have espionage. And I'm like, well, someone's vision for a game might not include those two things. Like a game by definition is a representation of reality. It doesn't necessarily have to be reality. Chess doesn't have a espionage system. And it's still a good game.
Well, there's plenty of games that don't have. I mean, take a look at, I don't know, Dominions 4 is a good example. I mean, yeah, you got scouts, but you don't really have, hardcore espionage. I guess with spells you can kind of do a little bit of, but you don't have steal so and so's this or cause unrest in so and so's province. So
right, there are a couple spells, you're right, that do that, but no, they don't create a whole new game mechanic where you're sending out spies to foment unrest or to see what the other nation's studying magic wise.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it doesn't detract from the game. And if they were to add it, it would probably be really confusing and annoying.
Yeah, it would. I think it would. I think it's fine just the way it is. Some games just they don't need. I think what happens is developers, they feel like they have to have espionage because the community demands it.
Right.
So then they kind of throw together some really crappy espionage where the game would have been perfectly fine and maybe even better without the crappy espionage system. Because what they end up ultimately doing is, they add these junky espionage systems into the game, and then the player can't really use them to their advantage because the system's so broke it's just worthless, but the AI can somehow usually find a way to mess everybody up with it.
Well, yeah, especially when the systems take a lot of effort and time, whereas the AI doesn't require that. It's a computer, so it could automatically field the maximum number of spies, send them all out, whereas a human player would have to take time to send them, to move them around when they maybe don't want to do that.
Exactly, which is kind of where Conquer the Stars really failed, Master of Orion Conquer the Stars, because theirs required a lot of micromanaging for your espionage system. You had to send the agents to different places and infiltrate, and then you had to give them missions, and then they got captured most of the time. I don't know. And other than clicking a few buttons, espionage has never been anything exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned to me before that you weren't familiar with the Total War games, but I'm going to use Total War Warhammer. Really any Total War, actually, as an example here. And this is not a system that's implemented poorly. It's a system that's implemented great. But it's an example of where the computer does a better job than humans. Like, for example, in Warhammer, you have hero units that, like mages and whatnot. And you could put them in an army to fight on the battlefield, but otherwise you can move them around the campaign map and have them do things. And it'll never be as easy for a human. Like, I sometimes forget to move one because they're at the other end of the world, and I just forget that they're there, whereas the computer never forgets.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the computer always is going to be one step ahead when it comes to stuff like that. So espionage to me feels more like an advantage to the computer than anything. If done correctly, it could maybe help the player, but most of the time in almost every game I play, like Distant Worlds Universe is another great example. Like, there's a lot of micromanaging there. Constantly I miss the message that my spy has returned and has gotten me a new tech or has gotten me the maps I needed. And if I'm not paying attention, I might go 5-10 years in game time before I realize, oh, my spy's back. I probably should send him on another mission. Right. Whereas the AI is just constantly back to back sending their spies places.
You're right. And that's is your inventory full? Because you should be picking up that shield.
Let me see. Oh, yeah, it is. I could probably drop a couple things that I definitely don't need.
Or you could sell some things to the merchant we saw over there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so, okay, well, back to the main topic, though, of just tacked on stuff, not necessarily specific to espionage. But I think Wadestar said this, so I think I'm kind of channeling him right now. But I'd rather have somebody make a limited game that is exceptional in what it does than a game that does everything mediocrely.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I don't think mediocrely is a word, but
I'm gonna take it though.
But yeah, so that's my take on that. I think that gamers are too demanding. I think that we should allow game developers to make the game they want, and we shouldn't necessarily demand that they put in features that other games in the same genre have. I just think it's like saying that, like, just because a really successful TV show has like a comic relief character, that every TV show needs to have a comic relief character now, or something like, I mean, that's a stupid example, but it's kind of in the same vein.
No, that makes sense though. I think that's a prime example. I mean, I like games with a lot of complexity. I'm a big fan of games like Aurora 4X and everything. Dwarf Fortress, of course, is another game I really enjoy. But, you've got to do them right. You can't just be like, I'm going to add all this stuff into this game and it's going to be amazing. There's a right and wrong way to do everything. Yeah,
I agree. I'll give this game that we're playing right now, Starbound, as a great example. I have enjoyed the new space part of it, with this new patch. But I will say that it is unnecessary. Like, they added a whole new game mechanic, and again, it's a good game mechanic, and I enjoy it, but I would have enjoyed it as well without it. What I would like to see is more, instead of more game mechanics, more content. Well, just utilizing the game mechanics you already have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess just let me know when. Oh, you're ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, yeah, I guess we've kind of mined that topic for what it's worth, but essentially, it's just the takeaway from my perspective is game developers should make the game they love and the game they want to put their heart and soul into. And just because some fans say that all these other games have systems that this game doesn't have, that they should not feel any pressure to adopt that system in their own game.
Exactly.
So, but all right, back to the general state of strategy gaming. What would you say is your favorite fantasy 4X at this point?
Ooh, my favorite fantasy 4X. So, funny enough, I haven't really played a lot of fantasy 4X games. As crazy as that sounds, I'm trying to think of ones, because obviously I've got Dominions 4, and that seems pretty obvious, but...
Let's expand the definition of fantasy to include anything historical. So maybe not Hearts of Iron, but just anything involving swords and potentially sorcery. Maybe not if it's too historical.
I mean, so I'm sure you're familiar with the game, and I know you are because you played it. War Sim. We could argue that game's fairly 4X. Or it's definitely strategy. Borderline roguelike. I played War Sim, and I love that game. I think that game was a lot of fun. I actually had a blast with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed War Sim a lot as well. It's a good example of an indie developer who doesn't have the budget or resources to make a blockbuster, how they can make a fun and endearing game with the capabilities and budget, I guess, that they have.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it is.
It's a game that also lends itself super well, I'd say, to expansion and modding, because a modder could just come up with new scenarios. They don't have to have graphic assets or anything like that. Or just the designer. I think his name is I want to say Hugh, Huw. He could add new countries, new things. It's the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, and it's really cool because he's constantly developing it. I mean, just within the time I've played it now, I don't even know. There's been, multiple updates, like a lot of updates. And they're not all contents. It's bug fixes and stuff like that. But he's always working on it, and just to him, it's a passion project. It's
in the same way I think that Dwarf Fortress is for Toady 1.
Yeah. It's the same exact way actually. And they're great guys, and Dwarf Fortress is a fantastic game.
So since we're already talking about Dwarf Fortress, one thing I have not done that many in our genre have done, including Daz, is played the kind of Dwarf Fortressy. I want to say clones, but games who also use the ASCII graphic set, but not like roguelikes in the traditional sense of rogue, but for example the one Daz does set in the post-apocalypse Dark Days, Cataclysm.
Oh, Cataclysm, Dark Days Ahead.
Yeah. So I've never played it, but I also say that's an awesome experience from watching Daz play it. It really, man. You get into it. One day I will play it when I have the time.
Oh, you definitely got to play that game. I'm on to my I don't even know what 4th series of it. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm on my 4th series of it on my channel, and I just can't get enough of it. Cataclysm is an amazing game. The depth there it never runs out. You could just, it's like other games. You get to the end game, and you're killing all the, you're killing everything, and you're mowing through everything, and everything's just easy for you. But in Cataclysm, as soon as you think you're ahead, the game just throws something at you. It kills you. Something stupid like you drive over a hidden landmine you didn't see because you weren't paying attention, or you're going down the street and you hit a roadblock with something called a chicken walker, and it just shoots a missile at you and destroys you. The game's unforgiving, but it's like any other game where if you play it and you learn it and you get good at it, it's so rewarding to play. Definitely I think almost one of my favorite games of all time is Cataclysm.
And one thing I've noticed, too, is when a game lacks graphics, I almost want to say the player base, at least when I've seen with Dwarf Fortress in my channel, they fall in love with the game more, because they're using their own imagination to stipulate what's going on. They get so into it. Dwarf Fortress fans, for example, are passionate, super passionate, and they have all these anecdotes about the world. There's so much Dwarf Fortress art on the internet. It's just people just get they get just devoted to it.
Yeah, exactly. I think you hit it right there with how it is. I mean, you kind of can picture it all happening yourself. I know that like that's the big thing that had me falling into Dwarf Fortress was that I really felt like I could picture the world, and when things were happening, like, a battle or something, and I was reading about it, I was like picturing it in my head instead of actually watching it take place. It's
Right.
a little bit different.
And what's cool about that is you're not limited. Like you could imagine that battle being just amazing and epic, because you're not
Exactly.
watching it play out, and it's not just a few pixels on a screen. It's hard to explain, but I think that they actually make the games more immersive by being less graphical.
I think so too. Well, it's always been my own opinion, and some people will argue with me about it, but I always find that games that have less graphics tend to generally be a lot more in depth when it comes to gameplay mechanics. And I think it's just because, if you take a game like Aurora 4X or Dwarf Fortress and all the time that would be spent designing all these cool graphics and explosion animations and everything, the developers are just spending on fine-tuning the game and adding cool and unique mechanics that make it, interesting and fun to play, like Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah.
I mean, if they took a game like Dwarf Fortress and tried to make it all, 3D and, like SimCity or something, I don't think it would do as well. I just don't think that, if they were spending all that time working on graphics and making the game look pretty, I don't think they could have spent all the time they did on, the actual combat system and the damage system and everything like that. All those things that really give the game that charm. And the funny stories you hear about just crazy stuff like dwarfs with no arms going out and like headbutting, legendary beasts to death.
Exactly. Like you're never going to see that in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But, just because you brought up 3D, though, I do want to say there's a guy by the name of Japa who he does mods for Dwarf. Well, not even mods, really, but more like enhancements for Dwarf Fortress that do offer 3D views of the game. I mean, I guess they are real time. I don't use them for that purpose, but he does a fantastic job. Just a fantastic job.
Yeah, awesome.
And that's another thing, too. Games like Dwarf Fortress inspire creative people and communities that produce ancillary works that are really awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you see a lot of really cool stuff. I like reading the after reactions of everything and the succession forts and whatnot. Like those are some of my favorite things. Like Boat Murder. I've never laughed so much in my life when I was reading the story of Boat Murder.
Truly.
It's just, that really made me fall. I fell completely in love with the entire genre because of Dwarf Fortress, the whole roguelike and even like building and genre and strategy gaming in general kind of started with Dwarf Fortress for me.
Yeah. Funny story, first time I ever played Dwarf Fortress, it was back when it was 2D, meaning it didn't have Z levels. You just kind of dug into the side of a mountain.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was before the lazy new pack. I played it 5 minutes, and I deleted it from my game. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm never gonna play this. And fast forward to now, it's like probably one of the games I spent more time on than any other game.
That's funny. It was almost like how I did it too. I actually downloaded the game and I tried to play it, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know what's going on. I don't even want to play this anymore. And I quit out of the game, and then I was like, I was still kind of had that level of, being really interested. So I went and watched a bunch of videos on YouTube of other people playing it, and what really sold it for me is when I was watching, like, the goblins raiding and like the combat system and how in depth it all was, and I was like, okay, I have to learn how to play this game. Or like somebody would do something in a video where they'd be like, all right, we need water inside of our fort, so I'm gonna dig I'm gonna dig a tunnel to get a well, and I'm gonna go down this many levels and have it come into here. Like all the thinking that went into that, I was like, I would really want to be a part of that.
Yeah, totally. And it's probably the one game on my channel that the most people have written in and said, watching your channel got me into this game, and now I can't turn it off.
Yeah. Oh, I could definitely see that.
Chest.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, and that's awesome. Like, I love that. yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. I don't know what else. I mean, I could keep talking, but that pretty much sums it up right there.
Yeah.
I just love that the game allows that type of thing. I do wish it was more beloved by mainstream audiences. I recognize the barrier to entry. You know, I wish people who... Oh, and we're back to where we started. But that's all right. We're pretty much out of time. Oh, careful.
Whoa, that was quite the fall.
Are you alive?
I am.
All right. Well, you know what we could do? We could spend the last few minutes of this just kind of going down in here and murdering everything. Plus, you could loot it. You could get all the chests and whatnot. These things have good items and whatnot. But, yeah, so definitely, okay, so the roguelikes, I mean, we got kind of off track with this, they aren't really 4X, but yeah, roguelikes are amazing games. They allow the user to kind of define their own experience, and it also allows the developer to focus on content rather than appearance, and those are all really great things. But in terms of 4X, I'm just going to start listing a couple 4X fantasy games that I like, and I'll quickly summarize like what the reasons are. So, let's get started with, and I'm not going to go all the way back to like Master of Magic. That's a long time ago. But yeah. Let's start semi-recently. I'm going to start with, and we talked about this subtly before we were recording, but Fallen Enchantress, I think did so many things right, and it remains to this day one of my favorite Fantasy 4Xs, primarily in the complete customization you have over your units. Meaning you can like determine if they're going to have maces or swords and what type of armor. Did I trap you in there?
I think I can. I'm trying to see. I could probably use some of this dirt here to start constructing. Oh, there we go. That works out.
So, and also how you change the world. Like if you were a good empire, for example, you'd notice that the terrain would start turning green and fertile, or if you were evil empire, it would start looking all withered, and that was really cool. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it just felt good to me. And then, let's see, nowadays we've got Endless Legend, which I love, and Age of Wonders 3, which I love, for two completely different reasons. In fact, I hated Age of Wonders 3 at the beginning, and it wasn't until recently that I did it on my channel, and I was putting more focus into it, that I've really seen what makes it shine. And I've really kind of fallen in love with it. I will say this, it is the absolute best generic Fantasy 4X game I've played.
Really?
Like Endless Legend is not generic. Endless Legend is a completely new property with completely new systems and nations and kind of themes. So that's why I'm safe to say that Age of Wonders 3 is generic. It's essentially a Master of Magic clone with a little bit of story thrown in. Whereas Endless Legend is completely different. It's like a whole nother thing almost. It's like a genre among itself. And the reason why I say that is because it not only because the properties themselves, the nations and whatnot are unique, but also, are you stuck down there? Oh,
I am. Yeah, it's easy for me. I don't have like a double jump or anything.
I'll just let you do that. And but I will say this though, when I'm doing a roleplay series right now with Age of Wonders 3.
Okay.
Where we're like role-playing the nation and the decisions that we're making, and the viewers get to vote on what we name cities and what our direction should be. I could not do a campaign like that with Endless Legend, because one thing about Endless Legend is when you're playing it, you know you're playing a game. The systems are such that they are more what's the word I'm looking for? They're representative instead of trying to be realistic. What I'm trying to say, like the combat screen, okay. You'll notice it's all hexagonal, and so it's really clear. It's a great game, and it's so much fun, and it's well done. But you know you're playing a game. Whereas Age of Wonders 3, you can kind of forget for a second that you're playing a game and really truly feel like you are leading this fantasy empire, and tell a story. And so I think both types of game are valuable, and I would say right now those two are probably my two favorite 4X fantasy games.
Huh. Well, I have Age of Wonders 3. I've never played it, but you've convinced me to give it a spin. It's been sitting in my Steam library for quite some time now. Picked it up on a Steam sale a while ago, so...
Mods are good too. A lot of the mods add a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, it's if you want a Master of Magic kind of update, it's the best one in that sense.
That makes sense. And yeah, I think Masters of Magic, I mean, that's another game I've kind of always wanted to try. So, and that was the one you said that the land changes depending on whether you're good or evil.
No, that's Fallen Enchantress.
Fallen Enchantress. That's another one I want to play.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of them. So
no, Master of Magic was like the. You should eat something, dude.
Oh, I am hungry. Oh, do you have any food? Actually, I don't think I have.
Yeah, totally. I'll throw some stuff your way. Yeah, so Master of Magic was what started this whole genre of turn-based fantasy 4X games. Like, it created everything. It's basically it was totally generic, meaning there was no story. There was just a bunch of wizards, and you picked one of them with certain strengths, just like Age of Wonders, and you were on a sandbox world where you fought with the other wizards. And that was essentially it. It was very bare bones, very stripped down, but it was so like groundbreaking for its time. And Age of Wonders essentially is just that with a story and more more polish essentially. But whenever you see a 4X fantasy game, you're essentially playing it because of Master of Magic originally.
Oh, cool. Okay, well,
which in itself was a subdivision, I want to say, of Master of Orion, which did the same thing for strategy for space.
For Space 4X,
games.
Yep. I mean, Master of Orion's like the pinnacle. Even though like there's been games that have come out, that are obviously do things really well and are great examples of awesome 4X games. Everybody always goes back to Master of Orion as being like the pinnacle of 4X gaming.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I wouldn't play it today.
Yeah.
But I will recognize its groundbreaking place in the genre.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
But and with that, I think we probably should call this one since we're at 27 minutes. So,
oh boy, all right.
Sabouts, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to record these with me, and I really appreciate it. You're super insightful, and we've never really done a co-op before. So, are you hungry again?
I am. Yeah, I'm a hungry kid robot. I can't help it.
So appreciate that totally. Thanks so much for doing this, and that's it. I wish you the best in your channel. I know your viewers are watching this too, but for my viewers, definitely go give Sabouts' channel a look. There's going to be a lot of good stuff, and I'm sure you'll really enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Marcus, and thanks for inviting me. It's a lot of fun. I haven't played Starbound in a long time. It's come a long way, and it was cool to check out a lot of new features it has. So
yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.
Goodbye.